So we think this is a good way to begin the new year, to let it really be new and not drag so much of last year into this year. So we are eager to talk with you about you creating your own reality. And we want to awaken within you your realization of your vibrational contribution to every moment in time. We want you to find the balance between the desire that life has caused you to focus into place and the open valve, so to speak, which is the conduit between you and the energy that creates worlds. It's like a pipeline where the energy that creates worlds flows through you toward whatever it is you're asking for. And the balance of your asking and your allowing of that energy to flow is really an important thing for you to consider. We want to talk to you about it in a way that might feel a little new to you, because it's that balance of desire and belief that equals not only what happens and how it happens, but how it feels while it's happening. In other words, everything that you feel, all of the emotions that you live, in other words, what your life feels like to you and what your life looks like as it unfolds, is all about the factors, these simple factors of what life has caused you to ask for now and how open you are about letting it flow. So always when Esther has a new experience, we use the analogies of her life because they are so pertinent to her and usually to you as well. So we're going to tell you a few things that are going to awaken in you some things that you might be doing too. So in Esther's new house, it's quite big, far bigger than one person needs, but not one bit bigger than one person wants. So here it is, and now it's the day that a photography company is coming to take a picture of the award-winning pool. It has a fire feature. Push a button and fire happens. Esther was very eager. She had not seen the fire yet. She was standing inside. She took her place inside her living room, looking out across the pool. And when the fire came on, it was beautiful, but it made a sound in the attic, a sort of howling sound. Well, when something howls, there's usually something wrong. So she went outside and she said, might want to turn that off. I think the house is going to blow up. I don't know what's happening, but maybe somebody wants to go up in the attic and see. So someone went up in the attic and the gas line was straining. It was obvious. Well, that was not pleasing. And so the contractor came, a lot of people came, and began speculating what was going on. But the general consensus was there was not enough gas going to that fire feature. It wanted more than the pipeline could provide. So it was asking for more. So Esther is just thinking, you guys are stupid. You should have thought that through. There are calculations. This many things needs this much gas, and those pipelines need to be this big, and so forth. She tried to be nice, and mostly was, as they explained to her, there were only a few interior walls that would have to be removed. And Esther explained to them there were going to be no interior walls removed. Tear out the outside of the house, but don't mess with the inside of the house. And then she decided to just cool her jets, because she could feel that she was going off the deep end and that no good was going to come from her involvement in this. And now it's right before the holidays. Nobody wants to do anything anyway. And so Esther just decides to chill and let the universe take care of it. Those were her empty, hollow words that she was speaking to them. So then She's enjoying her house. Everything else works as long as she doesn't turn on the fire or the pool heater or the outside fireplace. Just a few things. Everything inside is working. So then the next day, or the day after the next day, she's standing in her living room, and she has really a strong impulse to step out into the front yard. And as she does, she hears a strange sound, not so different from the sound that she'd heard before, except it's outside rather than inside. And so she stood there and realized that it had something to do with the sprinkling system, the underground system. She stood there long enough that that zone turned off, and when the zone turned off, the sound went away. It wasn't a sound of water running. It was a sound of something straining. It was a sound of something odd. It was a sound of something going wrong. So she called and left a message, and then didn't worry about it. It's winter. Nothing really needs water out there anyway. Something to think about later, though. And then a day or two later, a man came to teach her pool school. He's going to show her how all the buttons work, and he's a lovely man, and she learned about her new swimming pool. And as he was getting ready to leave, he said, "Oh, I noticed that you have a broken sprinkler down on the back of the property." And Esther looked down, and sure enough, there was water bubbling up out of the ground. So she called the landscaper, who was in the area and was there in 2 minutes, who called the sprinkling company, who was also in the area and was there in 5 minutes. And so within 7 or 8 minutes, there were people there to deal with this broken sprinkler. Turned out the sprinkler wasn't broken. It's just downhill, and the system had just turned off, and water was just draining out of that. But now they're there. And so Esther says, "Oh, I have a question for you. Can you turn on whatever zone makes something happen out here in the front?" And so they did, and that sound came. And Esther said, "Does that sound normal to you?" And they said no. And so they were there for a while and figured out that someone had wired 2 zones together so that when either zone was calling for water, both zones were calling for water, and there wasn't enough water for both zones. And so the demand was greater than the supply. You getting a theme here? The demand is greater than the supply. What does that mean to you in terms of creating? Well, it meant something to Esther. I have desires that my open valve isn't supplying, which means my valve is not as open as I think that it is. I'm asking for more than I'm letting come through. I've got beliefs that are blocking my own desires. That was a shocking thing for Esther to hear. She didn't want to admit it. She didn't want to own that. She doesn't want to have a desire that's stronger than her ability to supply it, because she knows the supply is always there and no one is holding back from her supply. She just might have the valve pinched off with some belief that it needs to be harder than it needs to be. You see what we're getting at? And so that really is a wonderful way to understand creation, because when you ask, it's given every single time. The question is, are you letting what's being given in? Or do you have beliefs that have got it choked off in some way? And so if what you're asking for isn't coming easily, you've got it choked off, because you are supposed to be able to ask and it is given, and you're supposed to be able to let it in. Unless you've had past experiences that you keep practicing. Esther believes that construction is wonderful but difficult. Esther believes that people mean well but don't always know what they're doing. And she's got so much evidence to prove it. The stories she could tell you and entertain you with, oh, you would be so entertained. And then you would add your stories, and together you would collectively practice the flawed premised theory that life is supposed to be hard rather than that life is supposed to be fun. Esther's been practicing justifying the goodness that comes to her through her hard work longer than is good for her. And you are too. We just wanted to begin this gathering with this powerful and always true premise. How things are playing out in your life experience is how you know what you're doing with your request for the supply and your letting the supply in. You can tell by two ways how you're doing creationally or vibrationally. You can tell by the way you feel, which you sort of get used to feeling the way you feel, so you don't know you're even feeling it. When you feel valiant, what's that emotion? Valiant. What is it? Is that a positive emotion or a negative emotion? Really? That's you against the world? Really? That's positive? Oh yeah, I can wrestle you to the ground and kill you. One day, Esther decided to move the rods in her closet that were not placed the way she'd asked them to be placed. Oh, it was a weekend. No one was around. She literally took a rod out of the place with great struggle because it was really tight in there, and just a smidge too long to go back in easily. So she put it upside down and hammered both ends of the pipe until it was just short enough that it would fit back into place. There. And then she thought, oh, I might be banging it into place. Could have just waited. A nice strong man would have come and done that for me in 2 days. Except I wanted to do it today because I wanted him to be wrong. Told him it was too long. All 27 of them. Told him it was too long, but they know better. So we're sort of throwing Esther under the bus here a little bit, along with all of the rest of you, because we want you and Esther to give up your need to justify the good that comes to you through struggle. And when you give that up, then you will bring less struggle forward. And when you bring less struggle forward, you'll be cleaner in your now. And when you're cleaner in your now, then things will unfold more easily for you. And so today, let's just talk about your desire, which is your demand. And we mean that in the nicest way. Your request from the universe for universal energies, the energy that creates worlds, to flow through you toward whatever you want. That's the deal you made when you came. You said, I'll go, life will cause me to know what I'm asking for. And when I ask, Source will provide everything that is required for the accomplishment of what life has caused me to know that I want. That's how it is. And then there's one more little thing. In other words, that's step one. And that's step two. You ask, Source supplies. Then there's step three. You got to be soft about your expectation of things working out for you. You've got to give up the struggle. You've got to stop trying to prove your worthiness. You've got to stop comparing yourself to any others. You've got to let the competitive feeling go. You've got to accept your blessedness and just let proof of your blessedness flow to you and through you with ease and flow. And much of the world is not going to understand how blessed you are, because they're going to be standing in a place of not feeling quite so blessed. And people who don't feel blessed resent those who appear to be. But just because they haven't figured out how to get their valve opened doesn't mean you should pinch yours off so that they feel better. And so we've enjoyed this interaction immensely. We're eager to talk with you about whatever it is you want to talk about. We want you to know that Esther is living happily ever after, and that we appreciate all of her fine-tuning, and we like how willing she is to get out there and live life, and how willing she is to ask for more energy than she can accommodate, and then see the results of that imbalance, and then do something about it. That's the dance that you're all playing. It's the balance between desire and belief, desire and belief, desire and expectation, asking for it and letting it flow.